the streets, you start thinking you're invincible. Nothing can touch you. You never really lose. Go to arrest some freak, find out you aren't as invincible as you thought.
Hello everyone, today we're talking about a game I consider to be a hidden gem, and its name is Murdered Soul Suspect, which is a game published by Square Enix and developed by the now defunct Airtight Games. May they rest in peace after they closed their doors less than a month after the game released, not even given a chance to improve or even make a sequel. I rented the game from Redbox sometime after its release, you know, when they actually allowed you to rent games from Redbox, but now they don't. I don't know why. And I did eventually buy it a few years later, and recently decided to pick it up for some reason, beat it again, which led me to this video you're watching right now. And it has never left my mind, to be honest, ever since the first time I played the game. And I've always wondered, why does nobody talk about it? As if it just somehow ceased to exist, because you have to dig pretty dang hard to find anything on this game. It has like less than 10 reviews on YouTube, and it doesn't even have a subreddit, which is insane. The amount of coverage of the game is very lackluster. So I want to bring it back into the light and let it shine for once. I think games like this always get overlooked way too often. I mean, look at games like Mad Max, Technomancer, or even Vampire, which all these games are games with unique concepts and lots of love poured into them just to get shit on by critics and fall to the wayside, which then leads to them being forgotten. Even something like Splatterhouse had the same treatment, and it was an established franchise with 3 games under its belt, and yeah, it had a rocky development, but it's still one of the most metal games I've ever played next to Brutal Legend. And don't even get me started on that game's reception. It's criminal. You get the point. I love my underdogs, and I just want to see them loved. I guess we should get back to the topic at hand anyway, so right this way. Murder Soul Suspect, you play as Ronan O'Connor, an ex-criminal turned cop who loves to fill his lungs with smoke even in death. What a Chad. He met a tragic end at the beginning of this game.
No. Come on.
But in the little-known town of Salem, you set off on a journey to discover who the Bell Killer is and why they murdered you, which leads you down a rabbit hole of horrifying deeds surrounding the murders throughout the town. So you must figure out how you fit into the picture and find the closure you need, pass on, and reunite with your wife Julia. I'm not going to spoil the rest of the game for you because I feel it has a good enough story and enough twists that it's worth experiencing for yourself. But on the other hand, I can tell you a little bit more about the game.
Seeing your own body lying on the street, it's like looking in a mirror you don't want to see but can't turn away from. And that's when you realize you no longer know which one's real and which is the reflection.
You were a detective in life, so now you basically have Batman-level superpowers in the afterlife.
I'm Batman.
You get to investigate many different crime scenes during the course of the game and other unfortunate events as side cases along the way. Come to some very grim or even hopeful conclusions. The side and main cases are solved in a very similar manner by investigating the general area and piecing together clues that lead to watching a recap of events once you figured it all out. Whereas the collectibles lead you to uncovering these ghost stories that are neatly told through a still image with a voiceover telling you a story that connects to these ghostly items you've been picking up. I really enjoyed that element of the game. A few examples being an old boiler collectible in the apartments that culminates in hearing a story about a person who was stuffed in a boiler and haunting a man's room, tainting his shower to a nice brown color and leaving wet footprints behind. You also find out about a serial killer who was chained in a closet-sized room so long his skin grew over the shackles. A couple examples of side cases are a young woman who was murdered by an older couple who just didn't like how loud she was being, so they killed her and dumped her in a rock quarry.
I thought they were just being unreasonable. I didn't know they would do this. Thanks for your help. You have no idea how big a relief it is just knowing.
Or a woman lost on the shoreline trying to figure out why she was there. And it turns out she saved several people, escorting them to land until her boat capsized and she died a hero. So by solving these cases, you help these poor people and many more move on, which is quite nice. I personally feel that all the side quests and collectibles add a lot to the world and the atmosphere of the game. I also feel the atmosphere is one of the strongest aspects in the game, from the main theme to the ghostly look of everything around you, and the dark secrets that lie underneath the Salem streets. When it comes down to gameplay, you do a lot of exploring and backtracking in the sometimes confusing streets of Salem, finding collectibles and doing the aforementioned main and side cases. You can even possess a cat, get up to some stray level mischief. So most of the game is an exploration game with a semi-open world hub where the major levels are very small, explorable locations. I'd say it has a lot more in common with the walking sim, where it's mostly about the journey and the adventure of it all more than anything. Though it does have some stealth sections where you hide from demons in these weird little jumper-esque blips. And the only combat is walking up behind demons and dispatching them, if you choose to do so, that is. Which all feels a little forced and makes me think the publisher said, look, it's 2014, so we need some stealth and some form of combat so we can be more mainstream, as if this was supposed to be Assassin's Creed or something, instead of the ghostly detective noir that it actually is, because none of those elements help the game's overall reception in any way. Murdered is chock full of mystery and intrigue, of course, given its ghostly setting, set in a fictional version of Salem, one of the most famous places for burning witches, which plays a pretty big part in the narrative. It's a worthwhile experience and a pretty unique game that brings you back to a simpler time. Definitely not a perfect game, by any means. It definitely has its fair share of bugs here and there, but I think Murder Soul Suspect is overall a really good and unique game that never got its chance in the spotlight. But I'd like to see it resurrected in everyone's mind, so in some way or another it can finally have closure and be remembered as the gem it truly is. Murdered is a game that's much deeper than you'd expect from a game like this. The biggest theme is about moving on and finding closure in your life. It's quite an introspective game at times and makes you reflect on the impact of your life and what you leave behind. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and maybe I convinced you to try out a new game. If I did, please let me know in the comments below. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch or listen to what I've created. And it truly means more to me than you'll ever know. I hope you all have a good day, and remember, don't trust the first ghost you see.
Death repays debts, my father always said. Forever I believe that. But truth be told, this life ain't over until you're honest about what you owe. Set everything right. Settle your debts. Only then can you move on.